Excel Ministries has developed two discipleship manuals. One of them is called Becoming a Biblical Leader, and the other one's called Becoming a Biblical Elder. And often people wonder, what's the difference? Why two different manuals? Well, when you think about it, if all we wrote was one for becoming a biblical elder, it would probably be a little unsettling for church leaders to start a person through that particular manual, knowing that they might get partway through and recognize that maybe this person's not actually ready to become an elder, and so it could create a little bit of an awkward situation. And so we felt like we needed to have an initial discipleship manual called Becoming a Biblical Leader that could be used generally in the church. And it's a tool that helps church leaders to disciple people in the church to function within the context of the church. So they might function as deacons, maybe involved in children's ministry, youth ministry. It helps them to be more biblically sound. And the Becoming a Biblical Leader actually helps individuals understand the importance of the church from Christ's perspective, what a believer's role is in the church. It actually takes the students through the biblical qualifications for elder, because the truth is, for the most part, the elder qualifications are Christian qualifications. In other words, the reason elders need to maintain those qualifications is so the rest of the church can follow their example. And so it reminds Christians that, listen, you need to be striving to live out these qualifications in a way that would honor the Lord. It also helps them learn Bible knowledge and a smaller amount of systematic theology. So it's essentially a 10-month course if you meet once a month. Each month it deals with a systematic theology question. But suppose it asks, how do you defend the Trinity? It'll give key verses. It will also then provide a theological quote that will help the person to understand how to answer that question. That is the defense of the Trinity. But additionally, that manual also asks them to actually read their own church doctrinal statement on the doctrine of God so that they can have a better understanding of how important their own church doctrinal statement would be. The biblical leader also then deals with personal spiritual disciplines. That is the importance of spending time in the Word and prayer, etc. And so we have that particular manual just to help people become better leaders in the church. But it's also possible, as you're taking through people through that particular manual, that you say, you know what? This man is demonstrating some ability. I think he potentially could be an elder. Now, keep in mind, before you start a man on an elder track, you have to make sure that he has the ability to teach. That's going to be a requirement for eldership. And it's important to understand that that man needs to have served in the church for an extended period of time. You need to know him well, because when a man becomes an elder, he's in a significant position of responsibility in the life of the church. But if you find that guy who has that ability, he's been faithful in the church, a godly man, then the Becoming a Biblical Elder discipleship manual is intended to actually take a person through the process of an understanding of biblical qualifications, but also the roles and responsibilities that go with the eldership. It's intended to be a one-on-one manual, because obviously before you make somebody an elder, you want to make sure you know them very, very well. It has both Bible knowledge and systematic theology, only it has more than the biblical leader manual. And the church will have to decide how much Bible knowledge a person has to memorize. But when it comes to systematic theology, in the Becoming a Biblical Elder, there's several more questions that are asked in systematic theology. Rather than just providing one theological quote for each question, we actually provide several, provide key verses, because as you well know, that for an elder to be able to defend sound doctrine and refute those who contradict, they need to be theologically sound. The biblical elder also, the manual also helps a person understand the role of eldership. So if a man is moving towards becoming a biblical elder, we encourage them to sit in on elder meetings, understand how that works. We want them to be engaged in shepherding in the life of the church. So as you work through that manual, it provides a lot of encouragement in that regard. But it also talks about issues that are really important for eldership, i.e. unity among the elders in the body of Christ. And how do elders function well together? How do they function responsibility? You know, when you have a multitude of elders, that is more than one, the intent is that you have the shared wisdom of the elders. And that shared wisdom is manifested in dealing with issues where elders don't always agree, because you're trying to come to the right solutions to challenges. So this manual helps elders understand how important unity is. How do you carry on difficult conversations to come up with wise answers? So ultimately, the Becoming a Biblical Elder is intended to take a man through, help them grow in their theology, help them grow in their understanding of eldership, and then hopefully as they succeed in working through that manual, that at the end, it would be appropriate for them to become elders in the church. I will say that I think it's appropriate before a man is actually set aside as an elder of a church, that he does go through some level of testing for his theology. That is, what he knows as far as Bible knowledge, and certainly the man ought to be able to defend his own church doctrinal statement, Bible in hand. And I'm not saying just affirm it, I'm saying defend it, because he's going to have the responsibility to do that in the context of the church. And so that's the distinction between the two. The one, training leaders more generally, can be in small groups, can be one-on-one, that's up to the church. But the Becoming a Biblical Elder now is intended to really take somebody through a process that prepares them to actually become an elder in the church.